What's up guys, you're watching Life by TCG. Today's video is a Pauper deck profile. So the situation with Pauper right now is that Tron is one of the best decks, if not just outright the best deck. It has the strongest late game out of every deck in the format pretty much. There's no way to compete with it in terms of like outvaluing it or grinding it out. But then at the same time, it's very difficult to like outpace it and go under it because it has this like very efficient kind of turbo fog engine. It's very hard to kill it quickly through the combat step. So because half of its resources are devoted to like outvaluing the opponent, and the other half is devoted to like preventing combat only, it's potentially very susceptible to other fast combo decks because it has an extremely limited amount of interaction. Apart from the fogs, normally they only play like 1 or 2 counter spells and very little, if not no, removal. So the problem of course is that there doesn't appear to be any deck in Pauper that can fight on that axis, like a kind of glass cannon kind of combo deck that aims to win very quickly. But I've been working on this list for a little while and I think it has a lot of potential, so I'm gonna show it to you today. Now the combo isn't an original one. If you've been playing Pauper for a while, you're probably familiar with it. It's the Axebane Guardian combo. So the way that this works is that Axebane Guardian is a 3 mana creature and you can tap it for mana, and it adds mana for every creature with defender you control. So itself has defender, and obviously your deck has many other defenders, so it can potentially tap for 4 mana each or even more. So if you have a way to repeatedly untap it that costs less mana than the amount of mana that it taps for, then you get infinite mana. So there are 2 ways to do that. The first one is Freed from the Real, which is a 3 mana aura. You can pay a blue mana to untap the enchanted creature. So as long as you have 2 or more defenders, then Freed from the Real plus Axebane Guardian is infinite mana. And the other way of generating infinite mana, the first one is Freed from the Real, the second one is Galvanic Alchemist. So this is a soul bond creature from Avacyn Restored, and the creature it's bonded with has the ability, you can pay 2 and a blue to untap it. So Galvanic Alchemist is more difficult to combo off with because you need to have a minimum of 4 defenders instead of a minimum of 2, but the fact that it is a creature card has a lot of important upside, which I'll get into with the rest of the deck as we go through it. So of course we have the 4 Axebane Guardian as the main centerpiece of the deck, but we need more defenders as well, so that we can up the count and make sure Axebane is tapping for a good amount of mana. So the core of the deck is the other mana defenders. So we have 4 Sunscape Familiar, 4 Overgrown Battlement, and 4 Wall of Roots. These are just cheap defenders that help to accelerate your mana. So in a way you can sort of see that the deck kind of functions a bit like Elves, the Elves deck in Pauper. You have like your mana accelerators, you play out all your mana accelerators, you use those to ramp into more card draw, and then you just keep chaining those together, and then eventually you can assemble the combo. So these are like the core mana defenders. Sunscape Familiar is really strong in this deck. Every other spell is either blue or green, so it discounts every card. And then when you have stuff like Wall of Roots, Wall of Roots functionally costs no mana with the Sunscape Familiar, because it costs only green, and then you can immediately add a green with the Wall of Roots ability. So when you have this stuff like these guys that add mana for every defender, this plus this, you play a Wall of Roots, it actually like nets mana when you cast it, because Wall of Roots itself effectively costs 0 and it adds a mana through the these guys that count your defenders. So you can accelerate out a pretty crazy amount of mana really fast. You know, you don't ever create a board of like 10 defenders. Or you can, but it's not common, like you would with elves, for example, with Priest of Titania. But these guys can easily be tapping for like 5 mana or so, and that's already quite a lot, especially when all your spells cost 1 less. Then we have the package that helps build up or assemble the combo. So we have 4 Drift of Phantasms, 4 Winding Way, and 4 Lead the Stampede. So just like elves, you have Lead the Stampede and Winding Way. Some people might see this deck and ask, why does it not play Distant Melody? Because you could potentially play Distant Melody and name Wall. That is an option, but it's worth pointing out that this list doesn't pump out as many creatures as elves, so you won't ever be drawing like 9 or 10 cards like you sometimes do with Distant Melody. Axebane Guardian is actually not a wall, so it doesn't quite work with that. And again, Distant Melody costs quite a lot of mana compared to these, so that's essentially the reason why. But yeah, both Lead and Winding Way are good sources of card advantage, and pretty much all the deck is creatures, so you're likely to hit what you need and get some decent card advantage off these. And of course, Drift of Phantasms, the combo pieces all cost 3, so it's one of the most reliable ways to set up the combo. Yeah, and it also is a creature with Defender, which matters sometimes. You don't really often cast it, but you know, just the fact that it is a creature card is nice because you can find it with the Winding Way and stuff. So yeah, so you have the card draw element and the tutoring element, as well as the mana creatures. That's like the core of the deck. Then you have like a few extra utility slots. So we have a few extra defenders. So 2 Gatecreeper Vine. This is like a Sylvan Ranger, but it has Defender, which is nice. Again, like with the Wall of Roots, sometimes it effectively costs no mana when you play it, when you have the Sunscape Familiar out, because this will only cost 1, and then it searches for a basic, which then adds 1. It's just a nice way that, nice sort of like curve filler that helps with consistency a bit. And having the extra mana fixing is also quite nice because the deck is 3 colors. You quite often need to find like another blue source so that you can transmute your Drift of Phantasms and things like that. So it's just a nice little value card. Then we have 2 Crashing Drawbridge. So I only own 1. This is another Crashing Drawbridge. So this is another recent printing. It's another card with Defender, which is good. The effect is, it has the ability to tap all your creatures gain haste. So one of the problems with this deck before this card was printed was that if you didn't if you weren't going to untap with an Axebane Guardian, you couldn't win that turn, so your opponent didn't have to be scared of what you were doing. So that gave your opponent like quite a lot of freedom to do stuff. It wasn't like a Splinter Twin, for example, where like your opponent was always had to be scared at any moment because you could play a Pestamite on the end of their turn, for example, and then untap and immediately win. With the Axebane, if your opponent could see that you weren't going to untap with it, they knew you couldn't kill them, so it gave them a lot of freedom to like play around your combo. But now with this card, as long as you have this, you can potentially win out of nowhere. So it's just extra things your opponent needs to be scared of, and even without that aspect, just giving your Overgrown Battlements and stuff haste can really add quite a lot of tempo to your like setup turns as well, and just help you like find the combo and play all your cards much faster. So I think it's nice to play 2 each of these, and then we have 1 Portcullis Vine. It says the ability pay 2 mana, tap, sacrifice a creature with Defender, draw a card. So sometimes what happens with this deck is that you'll just like keep top decking all of these mana dorks when you really want to find the win condition or a combo piece. So just having a way to cycle through all of those is good. Sometimes it acts like a sort of Mother of Runes, like if your opponent tries to use removal on one of your creatures, you can sacrifice the creature that's about to die, and you like 2 for 1. Yeah, it's a pretty nice one of, for example, you can sacrifice these as well after they already gave you a land, so like that's sort of free value as well. You could maybe add 1 more of this card, like you play only 1 Drawbridge or only 1 Gatecreeper Vine. The numbers between these are like a little bit flexible, but I think only 1 Portcullis Vine is really necessary. And the last sort of few cards are like a small kind of package. It's 3 Mnemonic Walls, 1 Ghostly Flicker, and 1 Pulse of Murasa. So one problem with this deck is that without these, the interactive decks in the format can sort of just hold up removal spells for the combo, and then it'll be really hard for you to win, right? Because like if you try and put Freed on your Alchemist and then they bolt it on your Axebane Guardian, sorry, if you try and put Freed on your Axebane Guardian and then they bolt you in response or something like that, then you lose this, and then you lose the Axebane Guardian, and then you need to find either another copy of this, which I'm not even playing because it's really clunky in multiples, you know, and then you need to find the Galvanic Alchemist, and you're only playing 1 copy of that as well. So just for like consistency reasons, you don't want to draw tons of these because they clunk up your draws. You'd much rather have a consistent setup with the mana walls and the draw spells, and then assemble your combo just by drawing into 1 piece and then using Drift to tutor for the other half. So playing the strategy with no recursion element is a huge risk, because your opponent only needs like a couple of removal spells at key points to like completely unravel your strategy. But once you have this aspect to the deck, like the Tron / Familiar's recursion package, then it becomes much harder for your opponent to stop you by doing that kind of stuff. But normally you have such a big mana advantage through your Axebane and your Overgrown Battlement and everything, that like even after your opponent has like used their removal spell to stop your combo, you have enough mana to like follow up this, you know, get pulse back your combo piece. So this is one of the reasons why you have to play Galvanic Alchemist as a one-off, because you can get it back with Pulse of Murasa. So like you suspect your opponent has removal, so you play this, they kill it, then you get this, bring it back. If they kill it again, then you have Mnemonic Wall to get this back, to get that back again, you know, then you can flicker this to get this back, and like you just keep throwing the combo at them until they have no more resources to deal with it anymore. And of course, this costs 3, this costs 3, this costs 3, and Flicker also costs 3. So all of these cards can be found by Drift of Phantasms. You can Drift of Phantasms for this, and then pulse the Drift of Phantasms back. That's a play you quite often want to make. So yeah, it gives the deck like a very grindy angle, even though you're like, in a way, you're trying to be this like glass cannon combo deck that's trying to put an aura on a creature. You have all these grindy elements as well, for when you're playing against the like more interactive decks. And then of course, Mnemonic Wall is a creature with Defender, and even if your opponent's not interacting, you can just use it as like a setup card as well, because it gets back all your Winding Way and your Lead the Stampede. So yeah, pretty solid card. You only want to play like 3 Mnemonic Wall at most, because you don't have so many spells in the deck to get back with it, and it can clunk up your hand a bit. But I do think you need quite a decent number to help with this grindy recursion engine. And the other nice thing about Mnemonic Wall is that like when the deck has infinite mana, but might not necessarily have found the win con yet, it helps you chain through your library with Lead the Stampede. You can like lead into a Mnemonic Wall and then play the wall and then get the lead back and then play the lead again, and you just keep chaining through your library until you find the win condition. And the win condition, of course, is the last spell. It's one Valakut Invoker. It has to be a creature card, so you can get it back with Pulse of Murasa. It has to cost 3, so you can transmute for it for Drift of Phantasms. So, and it has to be a card that lets you go infinite with infinite mana and win the game. So Valakut Invoker is the best choice. There isn't another option that doesn't require a splash, so there's no like white, green, blue card that does this. You can play the Black Invoker, which is drain your opponent for 3 instead of bolt any target, but I think this is better, just being able to use it as removal in a situation where like you have a lot of mana off of your Axebane, but you don't necessarily have a way to untap it yet. Then you can just play this down and like bolt something every turn, or even 2 things a turn if you have enough mana. I think that's better than being able to Lightning Helix your opponent's space with the Black Invoker. Bloodright Invoker, I think is what that's called. So yeah, it has to be a creature, and it has to cost 3, so this is just the best option. Yep, and that's all of the spells in the deck. So the lands for Ash Barrens, pretty essential because the deck is 3 colors. You need to be able to get white or blue or green. I don't play any red sources in the lands to cast the Invoker, because you only really want to play it when you have an Axebane out anyway, which helps fix your mana. So yeah, playing red sources would just make everything else more inconsistent. So for Ash Barrens, the other cool thing about Ash Barrens is that in your opponent's turn you can use Wall of Roots to pay for it. That comes out quite a bit. For Blossoming Sands, one Selesnya Guildgate, one Simic Guildgate, 6 forests, 2 islands, and 1 plains. So you play so many of these green-white tap lands because you want to be able to play Sunscape Familiar reliably on turn 2. Then you play only 1 plains though, because you never need more than 1 white source, whereas you need double blue more often to help transmute the Drift of Phantasms. So you only play 1 plains but 2 islands. Then you have all the forests because you want more early green sources, so you can play Wall of Roots and stuff early in the game. And then the guild gates over the like other tap lands, that because you can search for it with the Gatecreeper Vine, and it just keeps your number of colored sources high in all the different colors. So yeah, I'm pretty sure this mana base is pretty good. I haven't had too many problems with it, and all the numbers seem to make sense to me. Yeah, never have too many issues with it. So yeah, that's the deck. So I don't have a sideboard for it yet. I think what the deck really wants is the first option is good 3 mana 1-offs that are like sideboard bullets that you can find with the Drift of Phantasms. So one example would be like Spider Silk Armor, or if you expect to play against Boggles, you could play something like Aura Flux, you know, these kind of things that you can just transmute for and win the game pretty easily. The other thing would be some kind of alternate win condition. So against decks that are probably going to be boarding in stuff to stop your combo, for example Pyroblast, because the Free from the Real and the Galvanic Alchemist are both blue. It could be worthwhile just boarding in like Ulamog's Crusher or something like that, because you ramp so much mana, you could just easily hardcast it, and it's not very easy for the opponent to interact with. Then what could be another thing? Maybe just some like early interaction, because against decks with a lot of removal, it might even be difficult to assemble so much mana. So in that case, you might want to play cards like Mold Drifter, for example, against decks like Mono Black Control. That could be another viable sideboard option. But yeah, all these things probably need to be tested. So I just want to show like a few example games, like Goldfish games with the deck, just so you get an idea of like how it plays, like what the sort of average kill turn, or like how quickly it can Goldfish, that kind of thing. So yeah, so when you have a hand like this, there's really like no way a deck like Tron can beat it, right? You just go turn 1 this, turn 2 Sunscape, then turn 3 play your Axebane, play another land, and then, oh no, this is, yeah, and then turn 4 you just tap this for 2 blue mana, float 1 blue mana, because this costs 1 less because of this, pay your blue mana, untap, and then, so we have infinite mana. So you can see here that, you know, we don't actually have a win con yet. So I turn this all the right way around so you can see it. So yeah, one of these is tapped. We have infinite mana, but we don't have a win con yet, right? This is turn 4. So this is, you can see the interaction between the Lead of the Stampede and the Mnemonic Wall is really good for this. So this is our hand. So we'll play the Lead the Stampede. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the lands go on the bottom. Then we can play the Mnemonic Wall. Get the Lead the Stampede. Whoops. Get the Lead the Stampede back. Play that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Unfortunately, we still haven't found the win con, so we have to play this second wall. Play Lead the Stampede again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And yeah, there we go. Now we found the Drift of Phantasms, so transmute. And then we just get the Invoker, which is somewhere. Yeah, so there you go. See, that was a turn 4 kill. Pretty easy, but I guess we had maybe a bit of a good hand, so I'll just do maybe 1 or 2 more of those, just to give you an idea of how the deck plays. So you can see that like this hand has a really nice curve. It makes a lot of mana really fast, but then it doesn't really do anything with it. I think you should probably keep these kind of hands anyway. Just because like they set you up really well and you have a lot of live draws. So turn 1, play this. Untap, draw, play a land, and this, when you have a hand like this, there's some question about how you sequence it. Like this can potentially discount all the spells that you're going to play next turn, but in general, like probably better to play that one first, so you get the tempo of untapping with it as soon as possible, rather than playing this just to make that 1 mana cheaper. So turn 3, draw. So we have a Winding Way now. That's pretty strong. So we're gonna go play this 2 mana Sunscape Familiar, 1 mana Wall of Roots. And see, this is what I said before about how Wall of Roots effectively costs 0 mana when you have the Sunscape Familiar out, and in this case it's even accelerating a mana, just like I explained before. So now you put 1 counter on this. Play the Portcullis Vine. Now we control 4 defenders. Tap that for 4 mana. Winding Way, naming creature. So that only costs 1 because of the Sunscape, so we're floating 3 mana. Flip the top 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Freed and the land go to the graveyard. But then we have the Axebane Guardian and the Galvanic Alchemist, and we're floating 3 mana, so we can play the Galvanic Alchemist here. And then that's all we can do for now, so we pass the turn. And then we untap. Draw. And then so we can tap that for 5 mana. At this point you can see we have like infinite 6, 7. Play this for 2 mana, down to 5 mana, and then it only costs 3 to untap, so we have infinite mana again. Are we going to be able to find the win condition this time? Let's see. And so there's the really sweet trick you can see on this board, which doesn't come up too often because you're only playing 1 copy of this Portcullis Vine. But once you have infinite mana here, you can ghostly flicker the Galvanic Alchemist and then re-soul bond it with the Portcullis Vine. And because you have infinite mana, you can basically do this as many times as you want. So now all your walls effectively have cycling 0. So that's what we could do. Of course, we don't need to do that yet, because we have the Mnemonic Wall already in our hand, and we probably want to Ghostly Flicker that. So we'll play that first now. Get the Winding Way back. Play the Winding Way. 1, 2, 3, 4. So the Pulse of Murasa goes to the graveyard, but we get the Gatecreeper Vine, the Drawbridge, and the Overgrown Battlement into our hand. So this is our hand here at the top in the battlefield. So what's the play here? We'll play the Gatecreeper Vine just to thin the library. Get any land out. Then okay, so now I'm gonna Ghostly Flicker the Mnemonic Wall and the Galvanic Alchemist. I'll get the Ghostly Flicker back and re-soul bond the Alchemist with the Portcullis Vine, like I just explained before. Now we can go actually, this is pretty interesting because I have the Pulse in the graveyard. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I can do with this to like loop that. I don't think that goes infinite unless I have a second wall though. But yeah, like there's probably no need to overthink it so much because like all these walls just cycle. So get rid of this, draw a card. Oh, there you go, and then untap that if I want to, and then I can just transmute and get the Valakut Invoker again. No need to overthink it too much. But yeah, I'm glad I got to show you the like soul bond on the Vine trick, because that's not something that comes up much, but it can really make the difference if you know about it. So yeah, that was pretty cool. 2 turn 4 kills. So yeah, it's a pretty fun deck to play. It's not so nice on Magic Online because it's a lot of clicks to keep tapping and untapping this over and over and adding tons of mana to your pool, and then spending 8 mana every time just to deal 3 damage. You know, you can definitely wear out your mouse pretty fast playing through all of that. But yeah, I think the deck is like the perfect answer to Tron at the moment, just because they really have no way to stop it when you can win so quickly. Yeah, you just got to figure out the right sideboard plan and have a way to deal with the more interactive decks. But yeah, I think this could be a really solid contender for Pauper at the moment. So that was Defender's combo. You could call it like 4-color Valakut, I guess, if you wanted. Whatever. I don't think it has a real name, but yeah. Just defend. Let's go with Defender's combo. Defender combo. Defenders assemble. Who cares? Anyway, yeah, this is Life by TCG signing out.